Angus Taylor released his new look shadow cabinet, and there were definitely some winners here. Tim Wilson promoted to shadow treasury. Jane Hume, who's now the deputy leader, she'll be shadow minister for employment and productivity. Andrew Hastie brought back to the front bench in industry. I personally think that is an incredible move. Jacinta Price brought back into the fold. James Patterson now in defence. But some of the losers we have to acknowledge as well. Alex Hawke, who was the key numbers man and factional operator behind Susan Lee, he has been dumped. Andrew Wallace was Shadow Attorney General under Susan, dumped. Paul Scar, Shadow Immigration, dumped. Karen Little and Scott Bucholtz also both dumped. Overall, I think Angus Taylor has done a very good job here in terms of balancing the moderate and conservative wings of the party, which is important. He doesn't want his leadership to be bogged down by factionalism. He has clearly elevated people on the basis of merit rather than just personal loyalty. But to those people who were very factional, like Alex Hawke, he stood up to them and said, sorry, not going to be involved in my leadership team, which is the right call that you have to make as a leader. Naturally, he was asked about, these people who got dumped, but he said he wants a healthy environment of competition.
I want a culture of healthy competition, the kind that lifts us all to deliver for Australians and to hold a bad government to account.
And that's exactly right. Too often, these appointments are made on the basis of personal relationships, factional allegiances, who backed who, when and how, and not on the basis of merit.
And you can afford to do that when your primary vote is not at 18%.
Yeah.
But when you're at 18%, you have got to put your best foot forward regardless of who likes who and who owes who what. I reckon pound for pound, this looks all right. For instance, you've got Jacinta Price matching up in small business with Anne Ali. I like that matchup.
Yep.
You've got Andrew Hastie versus Tim Ayres in industry. That's a good matchup. Jane Hume takes on Amanda Rishworth in employment. That's good. But I particularly love Claire Chandler going up against Katie Gallagher. That is going to be wonderful to watch as they discuss the country's finances. We could go on. Sarah Henderson against Nika Wells in communications. That's a good matchup. And I love James Patterson on defence. James Patterson has been one of the star performers through the last number of months and has been able to hold his head up high, and I think he'll do very well in defence against Richard Marles, and God knows we need some help in defence right now.
At the risk of damning him with faint praise, I will say that James Patterson for the Coalition now is kind of what Scott Morrison was before he was Prime Minister. Like, he was a very effective operator.
Don't do that to Patterson.
I know. But Scott Morrison, before he became Prime Minister, was largely involved in stopping the boats and that whole process in Home Affairs and whatever. He was an excellent minister, effective, got done what needed to be done, articulated the point well, was able to take the fight up to Labor, and that's very much what James Patterson has proven himself able to do. And it signals, putting him in defence, that this will become, and Taylor himself alluded to this on Friday when he took over the leadership, that defence will be one of the major planks of the party platform going forward, because, of course, we've seen what's happened in Europe and with NATO and how Trump has convinced them, of course, to up their military spending. They're clearly going to try and prosecute the same argument here, as well they should. I'll note that last Thursday night I said Tim Wilson was going to put his hand up for Shadow Treasurer, and of course here he now is, and I think he will be excellent in that position. Of course, he comes from the moderate side of the Liberal Party, but again, he's a good operator. He's up for the fight. He'll get down and dirty. He'll take it to Labor. He'll do the stuff and say the stuff that a lot of other people are afraid to do.
The interesting one for me was Ted O'Brien taking on foreign affairs. I know he speaks Mandarin and he spent a fair bit of time in China, but I didn't realise he had much of an interest in foreign affairs because he was energy and then Shadow Treasurer under Susan Lee. The other thing I think we should watch is they've now got a policy development committee that is being co-chaired by Zoe McKenzie and Simon Kennedy. Zoe McKenzie, obviously, she put her hand up for deputy leader. I think her and Simon are that next generation of future talent. They are both two MPs that we should definitely watch, and I think in the future will take on growing leadership roles.